Welcome back to the Holistic Human Design YouTube channel. Today, we're going to talk about emotional authority. Last time, we talked about type, strategy, authority, and your sun, moon, and rising, what I call your big six in human design and astrology, to really get you familiar with your energetics, the way that things show up for you, and just how you operate as a being. Today, we're going to talk about, again, that emotional authority. I feel like I am an authority on emotions to speak to because there's so much within my charts, my energetics that is emotional, that is sensitive, that is emotional. And it's something that I really, really struggled with for most of my life. And there are still days that I find it really challenging to just be with the emotion rather than allowing it to mean something. And I think that is the key with emotions, is to witness what's happening in the body, but not attach any sort of narrative to what's happening. We're going to talk about emotional authority. I'm going to put a little picture reference here on the different emotional wave types. So if you have your solar plexus defined, that's this center right here. If you have your solar plexus defined, you have emotional authority, full stop. And this means that you have to ride your wave of emotions and come to a neutral space before you make any decisions. This is your decision making specialty, your decision making factor, your decision making assistant, whatever terminology you want to use. So, when we're riding through the wave of emotions, and I want to explain why it's so important, because when I first learned human design 6 years ago, I was like, well, if I just know that it's right, why can't I do it? Right? Because what happens is when we're in a high of our emotional wave, just like, the waves crashing on the beach, there can be unpredictable, there's highs, there's lows. And when we're in the high of our emotional wave, everything is the thing, right? Everything is going to be perfect. Everything is the thing that I need right now. It's the thing that's going to change my life, and I have to have it now. That's that sort of energy from that high of that emotional wave. We are excited, we are lit up, and this can feel really right in the moment, right? With emotional authority, there's no truth in the now. Your emotions, although they are telling you something, I do believe emotions are spirit speaking through you. When you have it as an authority, we have to wait to come to that neutral space of clarity, sometimes more than once, to really understand the messages that are coming through. So let's look at an example. The one I like to use is you go for a job interview. Let's say on paper, it looks great. You go in there, you like the vibe, you're having a great day, you woke up happy, because as emotional authority people, we can wake up so unpredictable sometimes. There's no consistent. So you go into this interview, sounds good. They offer you the job on the spot. And this is why it's important to wait. So let's say in this scenario, you accepted the offer, you shook their hand, you were like, done deal. This is amazing. This is the best job ever. This is going to be perfect for me. And then you go home. And then somewhere along that evening, your emotional mood changes, your emotions dip, and you wake up in the morning and now you're in the low of the wave. Well, what was happening is during the high of your wave, your emotional wave, you're only perceiving, you're only experiencing, because remember, we see things from our own lens. We see things from our perspective and our experiences. That's the way we experience life, right? So we were only experiencing things through the high of that wave. We were only hearing and picking up and catching the things that suited that emotional state. So then the next morning, let's say we wake up and now we're in the low of our wave and we're sitting there and we're like, oh man, I start this job on Monday, but it's actually not the pay that I wanted it to. I actually don't get as many vacations days as I want. I actually don't want to work remotely, whatever the case may be, right? You're going to start, because now you're in the low of your wave, you're going to start to perceive and remember and experience through that lens. And you'll notice the holes, right, in your perspective at the time when you were in the high of wave. Have you ever been on a date and just felt great and you're like, this is amazing? And then all of a sudden you're like, there are all these red flags and you're like, I didn't even catch them. I didn't even see them because you were just like riding this high of emotions. That's emotional authority. So then what we want to do then is we want to wait to get to this neutral space. So the best thing to say as an emotional authority, and something I've really, really gotten used to, first of all, play hard to get. Ra, the man who downloads the system, always says if you have emotional authority, always, always, always play hard to get. Second thing, wait. Even if it's for 5 minutes, just my go-to response is that sounds great, that feels great. Let me just sleep on it. Or, this sounds really good. Give me 5 minutes, or let me take a break. Or if you can wait for even longer, 2 weeks, a month, for the bigger the thing, the longer we should wait. because sometimes we have to go through that emotional experience over and over and over to really see that consistent theme in that space of neutrality. And then you'll feel it. You'll be like, okay, this is the right decision. It's frustrating because, again, there's no truth in the now. So sometimes our mind can come in play. We can sort of poke holes. We can question with our mind, like, is this true? Is this not? And it's really a matter of like building that trust within your body. But what happens then, so let's go back to the interview example. So let's say you go for the interview, they offer you the job, and you're like, everything sounds phenomenal. Like, I'm so excited for this opportunity. Just give me like 3 days. Let me think about it and I'll get back to you. Let me talk to my spouse, whatever, let me talk to my whoever, right? Let me just sit with it and see how it feels. This will give you time to go through the emotional experience and be like, oh, okay, so maybe they're not paying you what you wanted when you went in for the job, which sounded good at the time, but the next day you're like, it's not really what, but maybe they give you unlimited pay time off, right? Like there are like checks and balances. There's pros and cons that you can then weigh from a place of neutrality. And that's where the magic in the emotional authority lies. And with 50% of us, 51% of us having emotional authority and 50% of us, 49% not having emotional authority, it is the job of the emotional being to learn to respect and honor our emotional experience. Because when we're doing that, the rest of the world that is taking in and amplifying our emotions can do so in a healthy way. So there are different waves, and that's kind of what we're going to talk about here. This picture. So you have source wave, which is really from that 59.6 channel. That's the source channel. So that's like the source of your emotional experience is in that sexual relationship, intimacy, everything is housed like in that channel. It's a really, really magnetic and powerful channel. I've heard people with this channel feel like because they can penetrate other people, they feel like sometimes they're being violated by other people energetically because they're just drawn to them. My daughter has this channel and it's the only channel that she has. And she'll tell me things sometimes. And I question, why would an adult tell you that? And it's because of this magnetic channel that you hold in your body. And this channel is activated by others. It's not necessarily going to be activated itself. It's going to be initiated or activated by something outside of that. Then we have our tribal wave. So that is going to be 3740 and 4919. Those two channels are tribal waves. And what happens is this channel kind of ratchets up and then crashes. So basically, I like the example because tribal is about community. It's about your family. It's about like those type people with you, right? Like your tribe, but you're protecting your tribe with any tribal energy. But it's like the spouse that maybe just chews funny, right? And it kind of annoys you, but you don't say anything. And then the next day they're breathing kind of funny. You don't really say anything. And then one day they like drop a pen and you explode because all of these little points here that kind of irritated you, but you didn't really say anything. Then all of a sudden they drop the pen and you're like, why would you do that? It's so annoying. But it's not like the one thing. It's all the things that you like didn't really say, or all the things that built up that maybe were like micro irritants at the time, like didn't really bother you, but like over time just like build right to this explosion. And then you have the individual wave. This is 5930 and then 2212. So it's that middle channel. And the individual wave sort of has short spikes up and short spikes down, and then comes back to this neutral space. Short spikes up, short spikes down. Ra says that people with individual emotional authority into the individual wave tend to spike down more often than they spike up. Super melancholic. I have this wave and I can attest to that feeling of just like constantly like dipping. But then there is a lot of neutral space that you can find yourself in with the individual wave. Now, of course, factoring in the whole rest of your chart, because this theoretically, according to the books, is not the most intense wave. However, I felt it dramatically intense. And this is a combination between my feeling cognition, my moon square Pluto, my moon in Leo. Like there's a lot that factors in when it comes to my specific emotions. But I've spoken to other people with this wave and they do express an intensity to it that is what's the word I'm looking for, that is maybe minimized in like human design texts and readings, but that's what the texts do say, that this is actually kind of like relatively neutral. I do notice that when I'm not romantically involved, I'm pretty much at a neutral space, and the minute like that comes in, I'm kind of like all over the place. And then you have the collective wave, and this one is sort of like a small hike and then a dip, right? This because collective channels the collective wave, it's happening for the collective. If you have collective circuitry, you are primarily here for the experience of others. And it's really important to not take These people personally, because their emotional experience, their experiences are for other people. It is for them to be able to share with the collective. Crashes. This is really, it's like a slow burn, right? It just kind of goes and then it crashes. And so those are the primary wave types that you might experience. Now, you might have two different channels in your, or two different wave types held within your emotional solar plexus, within your emotional authority. And so you may be experiencing different waves at different times, right? Of course, with transits, you might be experiencing different waves. When you're linked up with certain people, you might be experiencing different waves. But whatever you have in your chart is what is, I guess, native to you and the waves that you have to work with. These are the ones you'll primarily feel. And so understanding the dynamics of those waves and honoring that pause, that time that it takes to come to a conclusion, come to an answer, come to a knowing. Again, there's no truth in the now with emotional authority. And so it's discerning, it's really getting into your body and getting familiar with what it's telling you, what the message is, so that you can, again, just, I think, respect and honor the emotional experience. Because again, it can be so easy to take the emotional experience in the body and move it up here, and then it's chaos. So working with your emotions, excusing yourself, and knowing that your emotional experience is impacting others. Other people are feeling it, whether you intend for it to be that way or not. My daughter and I are emotionally defined, and my son is undefined emotionally. So when he freaks out, he's 8, when he freaks out, I have to check where I'm at in my emotional wave. I have to check where my daughter's at in her emotional wave to understand, because he is relatively neutral. He's also 2/4. So there are times where he'll just go to his room. And I've told him before, like, if you're feeling really emotional, you don't have to be around us. Like, you can take care of yourself. And also, you're not responsible for my emotions. You're not responsible for your sister's emotions. I try and empower him to not get caught up in those, because as he gets older and as he starts dating, taking on the emotions of others, especially with a Scorpio rising and Mars on his ascendant and a 8th house stellium, he's got a lot of scorpionic energy. It'll be easy for him to hold on to things or to explode. And so we really honor the process of, this might not be yours, and let's talk about it. And also, you can remove yourself and nobody's going to get mad at you. So these are just some practices, just a general understanding of the emotional wave. Again, if you have any questions, leave them below in the comments. You can schedule a session down below. You can get inside the Holistic Human Design Academy, which is my space where we go through and integrate and embody all aspects of your human design, your astrology, their subconscious reprogramming, because a huge part of this process is facing our shadows, accepting our shadows, and moving through them and deconditioning. So this is a program that is designed to help you begin to decondition and support you along the way. And there's a beautiful community space within here where we go live. There's Q&A, live calls, all the things. So you can sign up for that below. 7-day free challenge as well, called Unapologetically You. It's just 7 days for you to understand your human design. So if you're new here, that's a great space to start, is the Unapologetically You 7-day free email challenge. Thank you so much for being here, for watching. Again, I am always open to things that you want to hear me speak about when it comes to human design, astrology, holistic health. I am a certified holistic health coach. So everything that I do is rooted in the body, is rooted in our physical, mental, and spiritual health, because it's all holistic. It all works together. So subscribe to the channel, share with a friend. I also have a podcast called the Emotional Mastery Podcast, where I interview empowering, beautiful guests where they share their story with you. And my purpose is to have a tool for anyone, no matter where in life you are or what you're experiencing. There's something there for you.